Good morning. It's April the 17th. I'm Ed Zerker, City Manager. Welcome to our community-wide budget hearing on this Saturday morning. We are pleased to have you join us either on YouTube or later if you watch it taped. I'm going to start this trial budget meeting with an announcement from our Spanish language interpreter. So Mario, if you would introduce yourself, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Ed. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mario Barajas, and together with my colleague Elsie Duarte, we will be serving as Spanish interpreters for today's virtual budget audience. We will ask as a favor if you will be providing a public comment. We ask if you can please try to speak slowly and clearly, so that way we can try to interpret what you are saying as fully as possible. Thank you. Now, to avoid any confusion, I will review the telephone sign-on instructions for our English speakers, and subsequently I will review the same pertinent information for our Spanish speakers. Through your telephone, you will be dialing 602-666-0783 and enter meeting ID 187-072-6681 and then pound. Press pound again when prompted for attendee ID. Thank you. I will now take this time to introduce myself to our Spanish-speaking audience. Muy buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Mario Barajas y junto con mi colega Elsie Duarte estaremos sirviéndoles como intérpretes para la audiencia de presupuesto virtual de hoy. Les pedimos como favor, si es que va a estar dando un comentario público, hable despacio y deténgase después de cada pocas oraciones para que podamos interpretar lo que esté diciendo de la manera más completa posible. Muchísimas gracias. Ahora les indicaré cómo acceder a la audiencia por teléfono en español, si es que no lo han hecho. Desde sus teléfonos estarán marcando el número 602-666-0783. Introduzca el número de identificación o el ID de la reunión que viene siendo 187-858-0447 y luego pound, o sea, el signo de número. Introduzca nuevamente pound o el signo de número nuevamente para cuando se le solicite este número de identificación o el ID de asistente. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Mario. Now with us this morning to kick us off is Council District 4 Representative, Councilwoman Laura Pastor. Councilwoman?
Thank you, Ed. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see, well, I don't see anybody. I see you on Zoom. But it's good to know that there are 53 participants plus others listening. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. And so I'm hoping that we hear and listen to all the concerns of the community regarding the budget, and then I'm hoping everybody goes and enjoys their family, the outdoors, and the weather, as we all know that summer is coming and we will not be outdoors that often, or at least late at 8 o'clock at night. That's when I come out. So really appreciate that you're here, really appreciate that you're participating in this process. It's important to us in that we have community input. This is your budget in many ways, and it's also my way of listening and hearing to the community to fight for some of those items that are being asked. So thank you for being here on a Saturday morning. Let's kick it off.
Thank you, Councilwoman Pastor. Thanks for joining us this morning and for those words to begin. As we move into the time, as the Councilwoman said, we have over 50 people who are online signed up to speak, and we're very grateful for that. Just a little bit of overview for those who have not been here. This is hearing number 13 out of 14, and so we've heard from a lot of folks, but we're glad to have people back again or new speakers this morning. Just a little bit of information. The trial budget comes out in order to give an early view at what kind of additions there can be to the city's budget. Primarily, we're talking about the general fund budget that funds police, fire, parks, libraries, streets, and other services. So there is information available for review. In a normal year, we would have these booklets available at budget hearings, but we have these available online at Phoenix.gov/budget, and it goes through an overview of what's being proposed. We have a little bit of a difference this year because we have a large amount of one-time resources that we're able to program. We have about $150 million of surplus. About $100 million of that is one-time money, which means it shouldn't be used for programs that go on for more than a year. Of that $153 million, the proposal this year is to put a significant amount into employee compensation in order to attract and retain talented folks at the city to provide the services that the community wants. And then with the remaining funds, about $35 million, there are a significant number of programs proposed. In fact, it's probably the most proposals that I've had in my time as city manager in 8 years. They're broken up into 6 categories that try to take into account the items that the council has been talking about with the community over the past year, and in some cases, much longer. Those 6 areas, and you'll hear about those in the video, include administrative accountability, continued efforts to alleviate COVID and address COVID, affordable housing and homelessness, heat mitigation and climate change, and the biggest area that we're focused on in these budgetary additions are public safety reform and accountability. And so you'll see a bit about those in the upcoming video. It's about 8 minutes. But again, I encourage you to go to Phoenix.gov/budget to find out more information in depth. As I've said before, you can spend 15 minutes or 15 hours on that website to get as much information as you like. Before we go to the video, I would like to express my appreciation to city staff, starting with our Budget and Research Department. Amber Williamson, the director, is here at the table with us to answer any questions. But we also have city staff here present, socially distanced and wearing masks, to listen and answer questions if needed. With that, we will go to the video, and afterwards we will come back to our speakers. So with that, let's go to the video overview.
The City of Phoenix trial budget for fiscal year 2021-22, proposed by the Phoenix City Manager, is ready for public review and comment. The goal of this trial budget is to identify programs and services that build a better, more inclusive city for all.
Phoenix has a long history of public budgeting, giving the community a voice in the future of our city by starting the public involvement much earlier than required. This year, due to the pandemic, public involvement will be virtual, but our goal is that we will provide even more opportunities for you to share your feedback.
We'll host virtual budget community hearings between April 2nd and April 20th in both English and Spanish by council district and citywide for youth and for seniors. And this year, we've launched the Fund Phoenix tool, an interactive way to share what's important to you when it comes to city programs and services.
The law requires the city's budget to be balanced each year. And this year, we are happy to report a projected budget surplus of $153 million, made up of $98 million in one-time funds and $55 million in ongoing funding. This is thanks to Phoenix's continued strong economy and sound leadership by the mayor and city council, and the city's strategic use of data to direct our efforts during the pandemic.
City employees have stood on the front lines of the pandemic more than a year and counting to provide critical services and support to our residents and customers. Approximately 77% of the surplus in the 2021-22 trial budget is allocated to employee compensation to continue to retain and recruit top talent, to provide the level of service our customers rely on to stay safe, healthy, and connected.
$35 million is allocated to address important needs raised by the council and the community across 6 areas. Focus Area 1. Public Safety Reform and Responsiveness. More accountability, responsiveness, transparency, and trust is demanded from public safety programs. In this budget proposal, the city expands an already successful fire department program where trained mental health experts respond to 911 callers needing crisis health services. The expansion of the Community Assistance Program follows community and council requests for innovative ways to respond to crisis calls for service with mental health professionals rather than police officers. This not only strengthens health outcomes, but frees up police officers and firefighters to focus on public safety calls, reducing response times for our community. In addition, the budget adds other important public safety reforms by adding additional 911 operators, reducing wait time for police public records, improving police officer accountability through an improved human resource management system, and more comprehensive reporting of crime data.
Focus Area 2. COVID response and resiliency. The city's navigated the COVID pandemic well, protecting employees and the community because we have relied on data and contracted public health experts to inform our efforts. We transitioned City Hall to an appointment-only model. We also pivoted our programs and services to support the community in need of Wi-Fi connectivity and access to emergency food support and virtual and curbside library services, requiring additional staffing and technology enhancements. Funding's required to continue these efforts through the pandemic.
Focus Area 3, Climate Change and Heat Readiness. Climate change and the record-breaking heat in Phoenix call for investment in strategies to address the negative impacts on our residents, particularly our most vulnerable, including seniors and those in poverty and experiencing homelessness. The trial budget includes a new Office of Heat Response and Mitigation to focus these efforts, the addition of staff to plant and maintain trees, and advance the city's Cool Corridors program, all to meet the goals of the Tree and Shade Master Plan to double the tree canopy by 2030 and reduce the impact of heat.
Focus Area 4, affordable housing and homelessness. The city has a lack of affordable housing and more people experiencing homelessness than ever before. The City Council approved a Housing Phoenix plan and a Homeless Strategies plan to find solutions to identify funding to increase and improve affordable housing units, and to leverage federal funding and work with community partners to help those experiencing homelessness. Funding will provide staffing and programs to foster affordable housing developments on city-owned land and ensure the safety and security of those experiencing homelessness and the impacted neighborhoods and businesses.
Focus Area 5, Building Community and Responding to Growth. There continues to be a great need to connect underserved communities to the economic benefits of our city's continued growth. We will fund programs and services that foster equitable education and recreation opportunities for youth and special needs populations, including the Phoenix Public Library's College Depot, clean and safe neighborhoods, and support for homegrown small businesses. Funding will support the growing needs at city parks and recreation centers, including the new Cesar Chavez Community Center, scheduled to open in the fall of 2021, Margaret T. Hance Park in downtown Phoenix, and Deem Hills Recreation Area in North Phoenix, as well as the successful Inclusive Recreation Program for residents with special needs. We also propose an increase in funding for arts and historic preservation grants.
Focus Area 6, administrative accountability. The city must continue to foster a diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment to live and work for residents and employees. To succeed, we propose to create the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We'll also invest in technologies to support data-driven decision-making across city departments and to protect the city's IT systems from cybersecurity threats. Enhance election processes to increase engagement in city elections and connect residents to library and park services.
This has been just a taste of what you will find in the 2021-2022 City of Phoenix trial budget. We hope that you'll review additional details in the budget available online at Phoenix.gov/budget.
Please share your feedback in whatever way works best for you at one of our 14 community budget hearings or by email at budget.research@phoenix.gov. Through our Fun Phoenix interactive tool, you can comment on the city's social media at City of Phoenix AZ on Facebook or Twitter and use the hashtag #PhoenixBudget. Or call us at 602-262-4800. The city manager will present his proposed budget for 2021-22 to the Phoenix City Council on May 4th, 2021. The council's budget decision will take place on May 18th, 2021. Both meetings will be streamed online and on Phoenix TV. Thank you for being part of this important process. We look forward to hearing your ideas for this year's trial budget and the future of Phoenix.
All right, welcome back to the trial budget hearing of April 17th. We are pleased to be joined by, by Councilwoman Laura Pastor, who you heard from earlier, and by Councilmember Carlos Garcia of Council District 4, and Council District 8. Laura Pastor, District 4, Carlos Garcia, District 8. I got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Councilmember, for joining us.
It is Saturday morning, and I want to thank everyone for joining us this Saturday morning. Excited to hear from the community. Said before, I think the budgets are moral documents, and it reflects the values of our city, so it is really important to hear from the residents of District 8 and the entire city. Reminding everyone to please fill out the Fun Phoenix or play with the Fun Phoenix tool. It allows you to go in depth or just kind of let us know what you think, and you get to see the actual budget. Please share that with folks that might not be around. We're about a month away from making our first decision on this budget, so we're taking what you all are saying today really serious. So thank you all so much for joining us.
Thank you. And with that, we'll go to Matt to introduce the time for speakers.
Thank you, sir. I just would like to read a brief statement about conduct during public comment. Members of the public will have the opportunity to speak for up to 2 minutes on budget issues of interest or concern to them. Speakers must present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language and personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules can lose their opportunity to continue to speak. The Arizona Open Meeting Law permits the City Council to listen to the comments, but prohibits council members from discussing or acting on the matters presented. And with that, our first speaker is Linda Abeg. Linda, are you on the line?
Yes.
Please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Zerker and council members. I'm here to ask for a budget to include the maintenance money needed, about $156,000 for the park at 55th Avenue and Samantha. This park is almost 11 acres. It was part of the original zoning stipulations for the neighborhood surrounding it 15 plus years ago, and impact fees were collected to build this park. The impact fee fund continues to have over $9 million waiting to be spent on parks in this area, and in about 3 years, according to Arizona statutes, that money will begin to be eligible for refund to the landowner. So it's something that we need to be using in our community. This area is about half a mile from the 202 corridor, has about 3,000 students attending school within half a mile, and has multifamily being built within half a mile. It's an area of immense growth, and the city plan includes soft infrastructure like this to support that growth. So I'm asking that you please support the growth that is coming to Laveen. We need a place for people to play and have recreation. We need a green space, especially as our farms are built over. And we need to follow the zoning and general plan that have been established in this area. So I ask that you please include that budget this year. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Amy Maglio. Amy, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Okay, wonderful. So good morning, council. Usually I come to you as an activist, but today I speak just as an individual who suffered a long and public mental health call around the Cactus and Cave Creek area in 2013. I've never spoken of this outside of psychiatric care, so please bear with me. I've had a PTSD diagnosis for as long as I can remember from being raped at the age of 6. In 2011, I spent months at Sierra Tucson in the trauma program after a group rape. Children who are groomed successfully are often targeted again as adults. Cut to 2013, I'm exiting the Circle K at the aforementioned corner, and a group of men stare at me as I walk out. You know, it was innocuous to a normal person, but it triggered me. A group of men at night standing close to me, just kind of looking me up and down. I screamed through the open door to the attendant, I have PTSD, I'm a rape victim, I need help, and I took off running. It was a trauma-triggered flight. I ran all the way, almost to Bell, screaming, I'm a rape victim, I have PTSD, I need help. At some point, the police were called. 5 to 7 men arrived in dark clothes with weapons, and my trigger was doubling down on me. They screamed to stop, not identifying themselves, just a group of men running towards me, my greatest trauma trigger, a group of men running at me in the dark. I started screaming things like, I have PTSD, I'm 5150, who are you? I need a woman, I need help. An officer put his hand on either a taser or a gun, and I triggered into a full blackout mode. The only escape I could see was a full barbed wire fence. I would never lay down and give up and let that happen again. I'd splice myself in half first. These men looked aggressive. I almost cleared the barbed wire. It took 30 minutes for the police and EMTs to peel me off while late night traffic and sleepy neighbors stared. 8 years later, I still have the scars of missing chunks of flesh on my thighs, and it never had to be that bad. I can categorically state, regardless of where I was being taken to, which medical provider, that my experience has been less bloody, less painful, and less traumatic, and cost the city less money if a community advocate who knew how to deal with severe sexual assault victims had arrived instead of paramilitary men, which is why I implore you to pass the community advocacy program, but they really have to not be an extension of paramilitary. Most people know somebody who's been assaulted, and I know I'm not the only one with these sorts of triggers. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Jamar Williams. Jamar, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Please proceed.
I appreciate that. A Phoenix native, born and raised. I appreciate the help with the tech issue I had earlier this morning. I'm locally educated and currently the vice chair of the Alhambra Village Planning Committee. And I went online earlier this year to use the online budget tool for general funds, and I've also used the online budget tool for surplus funding. And I'll probably run out of time, but I just want to clarify that we should not be using surplus money or general money to go to benefits to police. We shouldn't be giving them one-time bonuses, one-time raises, continuous raises. No public safety funding should go to police or even soft policing measures. Even the crisis assistance program. This is not innovative if it doesn't specifically root out carceral culture. And that's what we're trying to address here. That's why you've heard us at council meetings. That's why we're participating in this budget process, because that culture needs to be rooted out. The crisis assistance program, it's not innovative if program staff still call police or are mandated to call police in some scenarios, or drop people off at carceral healthcare locations because some of these facilities have standing contracts and agreements with the police. These are still carceral structures and still policing structures. There's lots of context I hope to add to this ongoing budget conversation, but like I said, I think I'll run out of time. But we live in a top 5 incarcerator in the United States. That means our state, with our city being the largest city within that state, is within the group of areas that lead the country in caging people. This is a crisis, and it starts with police. In some areas in our city, we have $1 million blocks. These are areas where the cost of incarceration exceed $1 million, in some cases a lot more. Well, I'll just finish with this. When we say that this is a police state or a carceral state, we're not being inflammatory and we're not being insulting. We are observing something with our own eyes. And if we feel like we love this city, we can create a metropolis and not continue down that road of the police state or the carceral state, and remove funding from policing structures and give it to other areas that y'all have identified that need drastic increases in those
Please wrap
areas
up your
and
comments, sir.
reduces in police funding.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lisa Cooper. Lisa, are you on the line?
Hi, well, my name is Lisa Vang. The audio came to me. Is that okay if I speak?
Indeed, please proceed.
Okay. Good morning, Council. My name is Lisa Vang. I've been a resident of Laveen since 2014. I'm a first-time homeowner out here, and one of the reasons why I moved out to Laveen specifically was for its growth potential. I simply just wanted to be with the community that I could grow with. Since then, there's been tremendous growth around my area. I live in the Bridlewood community and have seen a lot of expansion nearby, specifically the Paseo Point Elementary School, the new shopping center off 59th Ave and Baseline, and of course, the new 202 freeway. Along with the expansion, I'd like to see more parks around my area, as there's not a park within miles, and I'd like to see that change. With the area growing more, I think it's so important to be able to have a park nearby. Also, I may be a little biased, but I am a mom of a 4-month-old girl, and I would love to be able to take her there. Let me also say that during this past year, I have been mainly indoors because of the pandemic. When I needed to get outside for fresh air, my option was pretty much limited to walking around the block. It would have been nice to be able to walk around the park. When I think about a new park, I do think about, how I get to meet my neighbors. I think about my little girl making her first friend. And I just, simply think about how good it is for the mental and physical health of others. So please get us more parks. We have more homes being built here in Laveen. We have more families moving out to Laveen. So, simply we just need more parks out here. Thank you for your time.
And our next speaker, let's go to Lisa Cooper. Lisa, are you on the line?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Lisa Cooper. I'm a lifelong property owner bordering the Highline Canal Trail between 6th Avenue and Central Avenue. I would like to request funding for improvements and regular maintenance for the Highline Trail between 6th Avenue and 12th Street. The inequity of maintenance along 6th Avenue to 12th Street compared to 12th Street to 40th Street and other areas of Phoenix is grossly unfair to the citizens in the area. The lack of maintenance poses a problem for the daily cyclists, walkers, families with strollers, and people in wheelchairs. Safety is a concern as many kids utilize this trail. Maintenance would include clearing the brush, fallen tree limbs, trash, and debris from the section. Improvements would include replacing the existing asphalt bike trail, which is cracked and broken in multiple places, rendering it unsafe and a liability for pedestrians and cyclists. Also adding lighting to increase safety at night. We in South Phoenix deserve a safe path. Connecting this section of trail to the new Western Canal development would be the most sensible solution. With all the new development in South Phoenix and in the South Mountain area, this should not be an issue. Improvements to the Highline Trail would encourage residents to utilize the trail more often and to encourage pride of ownership of their properties. We urge you to dedicate the needed funding for improvements and maintenance of the Highline Trail. Thank you. Have a great day.
Our next speaker is Emma Jaragui. Emma, are you on the line?
Good morning. I am Emma Howdegui. I'm here advocating for District Number 5. First, I wanted to offer a thank you I wanted to thank you, the City Council, for supporting arts organizations and individual artists throughout the pandemic. You guys really work to prioritize funding for the arts through your standard budgeting process and providing emergency relief funding. What I do want to request is several things. I think that as a parent of a young artist who is now a junior in college, who is going to be an art teacher, it's very important that we increase art funding opportunities for our students and children in low income neighborhoods like District 5. I also want to see an increase in funding for homelessness. It is heartbreaking when you drive around District 5 and you see families walking around with suitcases and children who have nowhere to go. I want to request that there is more cleanup of alleys in District 5. I think it is really sad when students are walking to school and they have to walk through filthy alleys, because I do not believe children in Scottsdale have to do that. I also want to advocate that we are careful when we provide funding for the Phoenix Police Department, because we've all seen the news and we've all seen the things that have gone on. We should not be rewarding bad behavior, and providing bonuses, if that is true, is not something we should be doing. I really think we need to increase social services. We have a crisis out there. Rents are increasing and Airbnbs are on huge uptake. So I ask that we please think about community, children, and families, and poverty when we look at our budget. Thank you very much for your time.
Our next speaker is Ismael Morales. Ismael, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Good Saturday morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak to all of you. As with the previous speaker, I am going to talk about art this morning. So my name is Ismael Morales, and I am currently a member of the Phoenix Arts and Culture Commission. While I do proudly live in District 3, we advocate for arts for the entire city of Phoenix as a whole. I am very passionate for the arts in the city, and this defines how we are as a city with diversity and unity. I appreciate our council members that have supported the mission of the arts in the city, in particular to my councilwoman, Deborah Stark, and of course to you, Councilwoman Pastor and Councilman Garcia, for your commitment to the arts in the city. I also appreciate the help of the Office of Arts and Culture that has received in helping local artists with COVID-19 federal dollars during the pandemic. This year, in the budget, there is a proposed increase of $200,000 proposed for the arts. That includes $110,000 to support local artist grants, $60,000 for maintaining our public art displays, and $30,000 to support youth arts programs, professional development, and community programs. This is great news for our city, and the citizens will appreciate it a lot, especially when the arts do serve as a way for good social economic recovery from the city from the pandemic. More than anything, to support public art, which shows the beauty that is our city of Phoenix. This is shown in different structures, monuments in our Sky Harbor International, which lots of art is shown to our travelers that come in from out of town. I am asking for the Phoenix City Council to support this increase within the budget and support the mission of having the arts and supporting our local artists in our city and for our public benefit. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Cynthia Garcia. Cynthia, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Hi, I am Cynthia Garcia. I'm an advocate for adults with developmental disabilities and serious mental illness. I'm speaking today in opposition of the city manager's child budget. This crisis program does not direct itself in the best interest of the people. We, the people, want a CAP program like the Neighborhood Organized Crisis Assistance Program, which plans to focus on providing that crisis assistance. We don't want the involvement of ICE or the criminalization of the unsheltered. People should feel safe asking for help without worrying about deportation, jail time, fines, or death. Under no cap, nonviolent calls would be dispatched to counselors and those who are trained in de-escalation. Just want to add a little personal story here. I have a family member who was homeless and arrested for trespassing. Trespassing meaning she was seeking a shelter while she was without a home. She was thrown in jail. She was nonviolent, unarmed. Being in jail didn't help her. This was a case that where she needed someone, a counselor, someone who could provide her with maybe resources. Being in jail for a few weeks did not help her at all. Because where does she end up at the end? She ended up back on the street. So this is why no cap is very important to me. And this is a story that happens with many others, not just, my family member. This is a constant. And if you go out and talk to the community, the people that you're serving, they can tell you this as well. So please do the right thing and guarantee us that you're going to keep us safe from those who will do us harm, like the police. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Carla Cruz. Carla, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Good morning, y'all. My name is Carla Cruz, and I wanted to talk about policing in our communities. I do not believe that the police are actually meant to keep us safe. They're to protect property and instead of individuals, especially people like me who are brown or black or of color. And so instead of providing more funding to the police department, I believe that our funds, our city budget, would be better used and better equipped to go directly into communities. And other solutions that can help us feel safe, like providing more housing, and also COVID relief funds to help people continue to survive the pandemic, because a lot of us are still feeling the effects for a year later, right? A lot of us are still trying really hard to pay for our utilities, to seek food, seek shelter, and what we're talking about today, the city budget, would be better affected and better used going directly to communities and people in need instead of the police. I do not believe that they need 75 new positions. I think that that is honestly a waste of money. And we really don't need that. What we need is like free public transportation. People need access to travel, and we are still, like I mentioned before, living in the results of the pandemic. And so like free transportation is higher than ever. And also like possibly getting a rehabilitation center on the west side of town would help us and our needs. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Paris Moore. Paris, are you on the line?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just want to echo what the speaker before me said. We do not need 75 new cop positions, and the police are killing Phoenix residents. The fact that COVID relief funds are being used to further criminalize Black and brown people who live within the city is horrific. How can this council continue to spend most of the city budget on the police when little to no support for unsheltered people has been granted by this council? This money would be better spent on more resources and housing for unsheltered people that this council neglects and forces to live in chained off parking lots, only to close them down and displace them later. How can we continue to spend money on helicopters and drones for the police and police who facilitate street sweeps when the police department kills and kills and kills with no consequences? This budget is incredibly violent. The city of Phoenix is more focused on upholding white supremacy and ensuring Black and brown death instead of bettering the lives of all other residents through free public transit, low barrier housing, and mental health and addiction services to support our community. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Maria Valencia. Maria, are you on the line?
Hi.
Yes, I believe so. Could you please try again?
Yes, hello.
Yes, I can hear you now. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Maria. I am 22 years old in District 5, and I oppose the Phoenix City budget. According to the Treatment Advocacy Center, people with untreated mental illness are 16 times more likely to be killed during a police encounter than other civilians. Police do not keep us safe. Now that there is a proposed crisis response team, this program would reduce the number of calls police respond to, so that money should not be kept by the police department. Our community demands that the City of Phoenix take $15 million from police, not from the surplus, to pay for a new mental health crisis response team created by the community that will actually care for our lives and keep us safe. Also, because mental health is so interconnected with access to resources, those without access to basic needs like housing and transportation are also likely to struggle with their mental health. Yet poverty and seeking for help is criminalized. Right now, the Phoenix City Council is saying, we don't really care about your safety nor your needs because majority approved a police contract that literally gives millions of dollars in raises to a police department that only brings trauma to the communities that you serve. We're asking you to do the bare minimum and start taking our tax dollars from the murderous police and instead give more money to a community-approved crisis response team, more rehabilitation centers, free transportation, and low barrier housing. Give more money to our livelihood. I yield my time.
Our next speaker is Jeremy Schachter. Jeremy, are you on the line? It appears as though Jeremy is not on the line, so we'll go next to Bob Herman. Bob, are you on the line? Hello, Bob. It appears as though Bob is also not on the line, so then we'll go next to Celeste Zuniga. Celeste?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Perfect. Good morning, Council. My name is Celeste Zuniga, and I live in District 6. I want to point out that what is crucial about the opportunity to have these conversations is not what developments we say we hope to get, but what we teach each other about what development means, because development looks different to different people. To me, the development of the social health of our community means saying no to 75 new civilian positions in the Phoenix Police Department for two reasons. One is that the negative impacts of policing on marginalized communities have become increasingly visible, and as community members who have a responsibility to care for each other, we are given the responsibility to prevent possible harm from impacting our community members. And two, there are other ways of helping the community that do not involve the fear of state-sanctioned violence. One way I want the community to be helped is by preventing the $400 million in COVID relief being received from going to police budgets, and instead putting that funding into funding for public transportation, healthcare, income and housing support, childcare assistance, and public education. Since people working as police alongside their families are a part of the community that the shift in funding would help, keeping funds from police budgets would not hurt them, but rather help them as well. As a low-income university student with working parents and 4 younger sisters in public school, I know these are all developments that would improve the social health of my community. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Susanna Stetchley. Susanna, are you on the line? It appears as though Susanna is not on the line, so then our next speaker is Raven Padilla. Raven, are you on the line? It appears as though Raven is also not on the line, so our next speaker is Aaron Kelly. Aaron, are you on the line? It appears as though Aaron is also not on the line, so then we'll go to Sarah Ford. Sarah? It appears as though Sarah is also not on the line, so our next speaker then is Sabrina Kernegas. Sabrina, are you on the line? Sabrina, you may be muted. We're not hearing you. If you could try unmuting yourself again. Sabrina?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Sabrina Kernagus, and I'm a native to Arizona, and I'd like to discuss what the importance of the Neighborhood Organized Crisis Assistance Program, or NOCAP, means to me and my family. I have a 7-year-old child who is autistic. She has classes of flight risk and is currently nonverbal, meaning that she could wander off and has no understanding of common safety precautions like looking both ways when crossing traffic, not being able to identify herself, or explain if someone tried to hurt her. Because of her autism, due to sensory irregularities and overstimulation, is subjected to behaviors that, when not properly approached, could lead to physically exhausting meltdowns. This makes her, along with many others, a vulnerable member of the community. Because of this, I live in fear of what would happen if an officer who is untrained or doesn't have the basic understanding of applied behavioral analysis, Article 9, and prevention and support training would respond to my child should she be experiencing a mental behavioral health crisis. I have heard one too many tragic stories of officers responding to these individuals. NOCAP has expressed 18 demands to be included in their program, one being to secure $20 million for funding. Upon examining the Phoenix Trial Budget's handbook, I noticed that 34 positions listed under the police department are temporary. This shows me that this will produce a temporary solution. So let's allocate those funds to NOCAP, who will be able to utilize them long term. Also, nowhere does the police budget include more extensive training to officers in the aspect of mental and behavioral health. To close, to those who are opposed to the 18 demands listed by NOCAP, ask yourself these questions. Have you or a loved one ever experienced homelessness, substance abuse, and or mental or behavioral health crisis to where there was police involvement, and how was your
If you
experience
could
with that?
please finish your comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michelle Jameson. Michelle, are you on the line?
I am. Good morning. Thank you, Councilwoman Pastor, for the opportunity to speak. As the Executive Director of U.S. Vets in Phoenix, I am calling in to support a full-time veterans position. Our veterans have fought for us, and now it is our responsibility to fight for them, assisting them with items such as mental and physical health, healthcare, housing, education, and career attainment. Thank you for thinking of our veterans, and I fully support the full-time veterans position.
Our next speaker is Adam Hawkins. Adam, are you on the line? Adam, we can't hear you. Could you check to see if you're muted?
Okay, hold on.
Yep, there you are. We heard you. Please proceed.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Members of the council, city staff, I am here today as a multi-generation Phoenix native and District 4 resident. I'd like to thank the members of the council and the city staff for their commitment to our veterans and to, in particular, ending veteran homelessness. In particular, I'd like to advocate for the addition of a full-time position to the city to deal with veterans issues. And I will yield the balance of my time. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Our next speaker is Luke Black. Luke, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you. First of all, I want to take a moment to highlight a few things in this budget that we do not want. First of all, we do not want 75 new civilian positions going to the Phoenix Police Department. The city manager's office is aware that cities like Philadelphia were able to finish their federal funding on contract or with significantly less staff members than 75 people. We recognize that hiring these 75 people is just going to provide an additional opportunity to eventually move 75 positions into sworn officers, and that's not acceptable. So first of all, no new 75 positions. Second, y'all already know that because of the passing of marijuana laws and because you all are putting money into mental health services that you are not going to need as many police officers as you currently have. Therefore, the $15 million that is going for the crisis response program needs to come directly from the police budget and not from the surplus. That surplus is our money. The police are not going to use their money, and that funding needs to come from them. Third, we need to move $10 million from the crime suppression unit because that money is also not going to be used because marijuana laws have been reduced. Finally, I just want to take a moment to speak to Council Member Pastor. I'm really disappointed in your vote on the MOU. You recognize that police are violent in your district, yet you still voted to allow them to access COVID relief money if they need it to pay for overtime. You voted to take money away from people in our communities that need it. That is not acceptable, Council Member Pastor. We expect better from you if you are going to continue to represent District 4.
Our next speaker is Samuel Merton. Samuel, are you on the line?
I'm on the line.
Please proceed.
So I'd like to express some frustrations that I have about the city manager's responses regarding the community advocacy program's budget. People have come in here, they've asked for parks, they've asked for better roads, they've asked for money to be put aside for art conservation. But when we ask for a sliver of these funds to be guaranteed for funding community ad hoc committees, suddenly we hear that the trial budget is too vague for that kind of input. And you say that the programs are not established enough to guarantee that. Well, if we don't lock in funding for ad hoc committees for community engagement and oversight in this CAP program right now, these committees may never happen down the road, and this CAP will fail because no person will trust it. Can you see how it's hard to decide if this program is honest and legitimate when during meetings where we're supposed to discuss where money is going, you claim you cannot make guarantees about what a program looks like that money is going to? You said in the beginning that mental health and transparency is the most important aspect of this budget. And yes, Ed Zerker, you have said that we're on the same page. You've agreed that some of the aspects we say are essential, but those right now are just empty words. You need to actually write it down in the budget that a CAP program includes committees for community oversight and engagement. It's hard to believe that a program can take 15 hours to read in full. The trial budget can take 15 hours to read in full, but it's impossible to write an ordinance guaranteeing that a small part of the community advocacy program's budget can be guaranteed for this type of thing.
Thank you, Samuel. I just want to be clear. I don't know where this conception's coming from that the money's not guaranteed. If the budget is passed by the council, the budget allocates money to a CAP program. That means that unless the council were to act differently in a future year, the program would be fully funded. So that's not an issue that folks should worry about with the budget. The budget creates a CAP program, it allocates funds for it, and it anticipates going forward in the future that the program will be funded year upon year. Of course, every year the council gets to review that. So just wanted to make that more clear. Thank you.
Ed, could you also clarify process of establishing and what it would look like and some of the things that have been brought up with ICE being in a relationship, all those things?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember. So I know it is frustrating to people, but we don't have a fully formed CAP program today. So what the budget does is it establishes a funding source for a CAP program. The program itself will need to be developed. We currently have a partial kind of program in fire, but it's not what people are talking about when they're talking about the broader Cahoots-like program or STAR and Denver-like program. The fire program is dealing with folks who are largely displaced by fire or medical emergencies. This is expanding to have civilians able to respond to calls for service that are about mental or behavioral health crisis or other things that today we are only able to send police to. When the CAP program is developed, we will send civilians to that. We will dispatch civilians rather than police, assuming that there is not any criminal activity underway. So it has not been fully formed yet. It is something that the council will set policy direction and guidance on forming it. So we're just early in the process to be able to give all that detail. The question has come up about ICE. ICE is not called unless someone is arrested or cited in lieu of detention. So if we respond with, even if we respond with a police officer and there's no arrest, but if we respond with a CAP program of civilians, it is not an ICE engaging situation. State law requires it when someone is arrested or detained, cited in lieu of detention. But other than that, there's no connection with that program by state law.
Ed, there's been several statements made regarding CAP, and I sat on the Traumatic Incident Intervention Resource Committee. I led that.
Yes.
Along with, I want to say, Councilwoman Williams.
Correct.
And this was created, and the committee was created around community. And at the time, we looked at many different incidents and did research, and we pushed, the committee pushed for the crisis response team, that we needed to have more crisis response team, and it was with the dialogue with fire. So we placed money to do that. And what we discovered in the process and through through this program is that the crisis response team was a very important aspect to some of the to some of the incidences that were happening in the community that were not criminal activities. And it was more of dealing with mental health or behavioral health. And that's when the crisis response teams would arrive. That is my understanding regarding CAP, that's what we're building and creating because we know that that programming works in the community. Now, I had an incident with the crisis response team where an individual was hadn't taken their medication, was spiraling. It was after the death of my father, the day after, and we were there. We were approached because we were taking picking up the flowers and donating the flowers, and we sat with this woman for 3 or 4 hours, and she was requesting to see my mom. And so we called my mom and we said, we need you to come. We're worried. I was there, called one of my aunts that knew her and said, you need to come down. We sat for 3-4 hours. My mom sat with her, just, try to coach her through. And eventually what ended up happening is I had to call the crisis response team because she started to get really agitated. And I could see that we were going to go to a whole nother level, and we as a family couldn't manage it at that time or figure it out. So the crisis response team came into play, and they were able to talk her through what the process and going on and the grief that she was feeling. Nowhere in that time was I working with police. I was working with the crisis response team. And I made the call to say, I need the crisis response team, not police, because that was going to then go, and I understand it, it'll go to another whole level. So I just want to get clarity around it because I feel like that's what we're trying to build.
Yeah, Councilwoman, thank you for that. You're right there. The Traumatic Incident Ad Hoc Committee had several things, and in fact, there's another aspect of this trial budget that's adding a recommendation from your traumatic incident review, which is we're proposing to add a position, a victim services caseworker in the Family Advocacy Center to provide navigation services to relatives, family members of people who have been harmed or killed in interactions with our police department. That was a specific recommendation of the TIIR committee that is being added in this budget. But you're right that the bigger issue that TIIR brought up was needing to have a more robust crisis response group that could deal with exactly what you're talking about, that is not police officers. So in your case, I think we were able to get to the fire department more directly, but in many cases, as is one of our early speakers talked about, having an incident of crisis where someone called 911 and all we had was to send police officers. In the case that she described, they would be, if we were able to identify that as a non-police mental health or just crisis situation, we could send the civilian crisis intervention specialists. And so hopefully we wouldn't get to the position where she described, where she was peeled against barbed wire for 30 minutes because of fear and a triggering trauma. And so that's what we're trying to get to with this CAP program. There would also be a more, probably a much more specifically trained behavioral health crisis, because many times our police are sent to suicidal situations where the only response we have as a city to 911 when someone is calling about themselves or someone else ready to commit suicide is police officers, when it would probably be better, and that's what we would like the CAP program to have, trained behavioral crisis intervention specialists to go there. People, as you described, who are not on their medication, to have trained people to do that rather than a police officer, because what we heard and observed is many times those things spiral out, as you described, and the police officers are the only ones there, and so CAP will be designed, and to Councilman Garcia's point, it has to be created with the council here in the next few months to address the multitude of situations. But back to it does grow out of your TIIR ad hoc committee.
Okay. And then my other thing that I think we need to be cognizant of is that what I heard in some of the dialogue is it is not, I don't want it to be a program where then that person is now being arrested and then going to a facility. That is not the purpose.
Absolutely. That is not the intent here. The only time when arrest would be part of anything is if they had to call police because of violence or some criminal act. But in the majority of these cases, we think it's not a criminal situation. It's a crisis situation where there's a system that we want to get into that is not the police system, which is not the justice system. It's the recovery and assistance system. So that you're correct.
Okay.
Just one thing, I think bringing it back to budget, some of the numbers we've looked at is we have about 24,000 mental health calls a year, and the current volunteer program can respond to about 4,000 of them. And so I think what we need to look at is the 24,000 the real number, or is that going to grow once we have folks that are established and know what they're looking for, both on the 911 side and responding to the streets? And I do think the point that I think is important that folks have brought up is the evaluation of the amount of work that's going to get taken off of the police department with these folks responding, and what does that look like for us balancing taking from police or acknowledging that this is going to cover some of those costs.
You're absolutely right. We firmly believe that there's going to be a reduction in work for police officers, which they will be happy for. When we get that information, that data, and that frees up money, then the council will have that money to program. We just don't know what that is right now, and so we can't plan for it until we actually have the data, but we have to collect that data. You're right.
Our next speaker is Amy Esposito. Amy, it appears Amy is not on the line, so then our next speaker is Ramon Gomez. Ramon, are you on the line?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Council, and thank you for having us this morning and giving us the opportunity to speak. My name is Ramon Gomez. I'm a resident of the Levine, Arizona community. I've been here 6 years, calling on behalf of the park, 55th Avenue and Samantha Way, wanting to get that budget added for the building of the park. I want to go ahead and just say that Levine is growing exponentially with the 202 coming in. It's a great, lush community, upcoming community. Right now, that is the eyesore of this community. It is right across from a school, which would be beneficial for the school to make use of it when they have their events. So just want to keep it short and let you guys know that that is one of my requests for the budget. And thank you for all you do. And you guys have a great day and have a great weekend.
Our next
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Robert Cannon. Robert, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is Bob Cannon, president of the Willow Neighborhood Association. On behalf of myself and the 10 board of directors, I'd like to say good morning and thank you for all your cooperation. We'd like to ask the continuation. We were lucky enough last year to receive funding for the 3rd Avenue development. We'd like to ask officially that we continue with the construction funds. We'd appreciate your consideration in finishing the 3rd and 5th Avenue. And I just want to please reiterate and state a paragraph from the Willow Conservation Plan that was adopted by the city. And it says, create a neighborhood in which adults and children can get around easily, safety, whether by bicycle, foot, and design the street system to reduce external traffic. We're asking officially to please uphold the Willow Conservation Plan, continue the preservation of the neighborhood, and for the overall City of Phoenix historic preservation. And thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Deanne Cook. Deanne, are you on the line? It appears as though Deanne is not on the line, so our next speaker is Laredo Torres. Laredo, are you on the line? Does not appear as though they're on the line, so we'll move next to Kush Giovanni. Kush, are you on the line? It appears as though Kush is not on the line, so then we will go next to Hannah Adams. Hannah, are you on the line? It appears as though Hannah is not on the line, so we'll go next to Melissa Hartley.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. The budget introduction video showed at the beginning of today's meeting noted that the goal of this budget is to build a better and more inclusive city for all. With those goals in mind, I'm here today in support of funding an unarmed crisis assistance department separate from law enforcement or the fire department. To be clear, I understand from your earlier comments that the Community Assistance Program, or CAP, is not fully formed, and I'm glad to hear that the council understands the current program is simply not enough. That being said, I believe a new separate crisis assistance department is needed. True crisis assistance for all community members can only succeed if it is independent from other first responder departments. In addition, this department can only achieve success with structured and continuous community oversight and feedback. We must find a comprehensive solution to prevent crises and avoid unnecessary hospitalization, police interactions, arrests, and even deaths. We must divert people suffering from mental illness away from the criminal justice system and into mental health treatment. A crisis response department, in addition to and not part of our police and fire departments, means we have the right responder to the right situation at the right time. We need systemic change to stop a systemic crisis. A new separate department offers both solutions and opportunities. Let's keep the important work moving forward. Phoenix can be and should be a model for the nation in continuing to build a community where every individual feels safe. Thank you for your consideration.
Matt, I have a comment. I appreciate what was said. once again, the great work of the council is we are looking towards the future for a crisis response department. That's my understanding. This is the first beginning step, and then we're going to move towards that piece. I just want to put it on record. The other piece is that I believe we hired a deputy director, and that was one of the reasons why we hired a deputy director, was then to be able to work with us and form the crisis response department. That is my understanding. So I would like the public to know that these are the dialogues that we are having. We just don't have them. I don't have them publicly because I'm having them with you and saying this is what I would like to see. And Councilman Garcia and I are like, okay, how do we solve this problem of what we've heard from the community? So I just want it on record so public understands that we are doing this work.
You are correct, Councilwoman. Yes.
Okay, so this is the first step, and then we're moving, and we're moving as quickly as we can. That's what I mean, because we're pushing. So, okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Ainsley Anguno. Ainsley, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ainsley Anguno, and I'm also a member of the Levine community and also a teacher out here in Levine. I'm also asking that you please fund the building and maintenance of the park on 55th Avenue and Samantha Way. Hearing all of these other issues we have, it's important that we start with our children and address their mental health after this year in the pandemic, and making sure that we encourage our outdoor play and we encourage our community building so that we can support each other in the future. And hopefully some of the issues that we have so much of now, we can have less in the future with them, starting with some easy solutions like having a park. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Jessica Spencer. Jessica, are you on the line? It appears as though Jessica is not on the line, so next we'll go to Shannon DePalmo. Shannon, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and City staff. My name is Shannon DePalmo, and I'm the Vice President of Community Engagement of CAN Community Health, located in 85015, and I am an ad hoc committee member of the Fast Track Cities Initiative. The Fast Track Cities Ad Hoc Committee includes more than 24 diverse members representing people living with HIV, medical providers, community-based organizations, local HIV advocacy groups, and government departments in HIV field. I joined my colleagues on the ad hoc committee to advocate for $250,000 in the city budget. Fast Track Cities is a global effort, and our city is part of 25 in the U.S. working to end the HIV/AIDS epidemic once and for all. The initiative began in 2016 by then Mayor Stanton and is now co-chaired by Councilwoman Pastor and Stark. Our goals are four-pronged. 90% of Phoenicians know their status. 90% who know their HIV positive status are in antiretroviral treatment. 90% on treatment achieve viral suppression, and zero stigma and discrimination. We have made great strides towards these goals, and this investment in the city budget could help us achieve specific actions, including number one, expanding the Rapid Start program. This program ensures individuals who are living with HIV are linked to medical care as soon as possible. Number two, expanding PrEP and PEP programs. We know that PrEP, a once daily pill, can prevent new HIV diagnosis with a high efficacy rate. And number three, increase engagement so people know their HIV status and are retained in care. For example, support can promote U=U, undetectable equals untransmittable, message to erase stigma and discrimination in our community. Our Fast Track Cities initiative is data-driven and has been recognized internationally. With your support, we hope to continue that progress so Phoenix can be a leader in ending the HIV epidemic. Thank you for your time and consideration of $250,000 for the Fast Track Cities initiative.
Our next speaker is Elida Urias. Elida, are you on the line?
Urias se encuentra. Elida Urias.
Sí.
Sí, buenos días. Yes, good morning.
Sí, buenos días. Buenos días, miembros del concejal. Mi nombre es
Good
Elida
morning,
Urias.
members of the council. My name is Elida Urias.
Pertenezco a la asociación Si Se Puede Neighborhood Association.
I am with the association Si Se Puede Association.
Del distrito número 7, Estrella
I'm with
Villa.
district number 7.
Estrella Villa, código postal 85043.
Estrella Villa is zip code 85043.
Buenos días. Para nosotros, el no tener un circulador confiable en la comunidad afecta a las personas.
And the fact that we don't have a reliable bus transit system makes people feel that they can't have any trust.
Las personas que no cuentan con un vehículo propio y trabajan
People that don't have a means to get around, that don't have a vehicle, makes it difficult for them.
Y el perder un empleo por falta de acceso al transporte público afecta la economía familiar y de la comunidad.
And the fact that they can't get around to find a job also affects the economy of the community and the family circle.
Solicitamos el circulador para poder accesar a la educación.
We are requesting this bus transit system so that people can have access to education as well.
Una sociedad educada es más productiva y feliz.
A educated society is more productive and happy.
Y esto nos ayuda a bajar los índices de delincuencia y
And this
contribuye
also helps us to reduce the criminal rates
y contribuye grandemente en la economía y desarrollo de nuestro país.
and it also contributes to the development of our economy and development of our country.
También nuestra comunidad está exigiendo un centro comunitario.
And we also demand a community center.
Porque nuestra asociación distribuye despensas familiares cada 15 días.
Because our association is distributing food boxes every 15 days in our community.
Y actualmente estamos usando los estacionamientos de los apartamentos residenciales para personas de la tercera edad.
And right now we're using the parking lots of the areas where the elderly live to be able to distribute the funds, not the funds, I'm sorry, the food.
Que es Casa Pedro Ruiz.
¿Qué es qué, perdón, me podría repetir?
Casa Pedro Ruiz.
And the area is called Casa Pedro Ruiz.
Y durante el verano esto se nos va a hacer muy difícil.
And during the summer, it's only going to get more difficult.
Especialmente por el calor y porque muchos de los productos que nos donan son perecederos.
And especially because of the heat, and a lot of the products that we get are perishable. ¿Se le está acabando el tiempo, señora? Oh, gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Angelica Gastelum. Angelica, are you on the line?
Siguiente orador es Angélica Gastelum.
Sí, buenos días.
Good morning.
Mi nombre es Angélica Gastelum.
My name is Angélica Gastelum.
Pertenezco también a Si Se Puede Neighborhood Association. en
And
Estrella
I'm
Village,
also with Neighborhood Association with Estrella Village
en Distrito 7.
in District 7.
Estamos solicitando, como dijo mi compañera, un centro
We are
comunitario. y un
requesting, like my
circulador
colleague
público.
said, of a
Y un
bus
circulador
transit
público.
system and a community center,
Ya que esos servicios no los tenemos en nuestra área.
because we don't have those services in our area.
Al tener un circulador nos ayudaría a mejorar la movilidad de nuestra comunidad.
Having our bus transit system would help us to be able to get around within our community.
Porque muchos de nuestros habitantes no manejan o no tienen transporte propio.
Because a lot of people that live here don't have their own transportation, or they just simply don't drive.
Especialmente para asistir como a citas médicas, a recoger medicamentos, a atender exámenes de prevención anual.
Especially to go to their doctor appointments, to go to pick up their medications, or getting their routine exams.
Por ejemplo, mamografías, citologías, dentales y físicos.
Perdón, ¿me podría repetir?
Por ejemplo, mamografías, citologías, dentales y físicos.
Also for mammograms and physical medical exams and other medical exams in general.
Ya que muchos servicios médicos nos quedan bien retirados de nuestra comunidad.
Because a lot of the services are not are very far away from our community.
Al proporcionarnos un circulador tendremos la posibilidad como de tener una comunidad saludable.
And providing us with this bus system or public transportation, we would have healthier community.
También solicitamos el centro comunitario porque el más cercano nos queda en Maryville.
And we also need a community center because the closest one is in Maryvale.
Y nos queda un poco lejos también.
And it's also far away for us.
Nos beneficiaría de diferentes maneras tener uno en nuestra comunidad.
So it would help us in many ways to have this public transit system available to us.
Muchas gracias y
thank you.
Gracias por su atención.
Thank you for your attention.
Our next speaker is Paola Valencia. Paola, are you on the line? Paola? Let us go next to Ana Maria Hernandez, and we'll circle back to Paola. Ana Maria, are you on the line? Oh, okay. Let's go next to Jacob Rayford. Jacob, are you on the line?
There we go. I am on the line.
Please proceed.
Okay. All right. So good morning, City Council and all in attendance. My name is Jacob Rayford, community organizer with Rising and an advocate for the Neighborhood Organized Crisis Assistance Program, an initiative seeking to create crisis assistance departments of the same name with the house calls ranging from wellness checks and nonviolent crimes. And you already know there's been several people speaking to this today. As of Thursday's demonstration, this community demands a legitimate crisis response program, and we're concerned about how opaque the CAP's intentions are. Y'all just had dialogue over the instances officers of punitive measures would be utilized. You said there would be police interaction if there's criminal activity. But let's be honest, substance abuse does involve the use of what is literally defined by police as dangerous drugs, in quotes. So how would your program not ultimately defer to police? We need confirmation that the committee created to oversee this program's development is community driven. After the MOU, we cannot afford any more unilateral decisions made outside of our field of vision. I know you intend on responding, saying that it's in its development phase. You can't get, we're asking for clarity on things that'll help or hinder our community, and we deserve a direct answer. I know y'all have seen us express this on the news, so there should not be a holdup at this point. In order for this department to be successful, it needs to be held responsible for calls from check welfares to nonviolent crimes and everything underneath it, right? Loud noise calls, 21,139. Check welfare, 60,354. Incorrigible juvenile, 2,343. Given the ratio between mental health crises and these calls, you can incorporate it into your unit's dispatches. Officers trained in authoritativeness don't need to handle these calls, and honestly, eliminating their presence from them will ultimately save lives. Now, a department like NOCAP trained in personable, even humanitarian interactions is needed across the board. And since NOCAP is taking substantial workload from the police, continued funding must come from the police department. I know you just stated that, but it needs to be directly implied. And it's not political, it's practical. It needs to be directly stated in your intentions in order to encourage a sense of trust in the community, especially if you're making moves on our behalf. So for those looking to take a look at our fundamental requirements, please sign a petition at nocapphoenix.com. Thank you.
Next,
Could I ask a question? Jacob, are you still on the line?
Yes, I am.
Do you have examples of other jurisdictions that have those kind of, I don't know if you want to call them guarantees, or those exclusions of immigration or police?
Do I have examples of, I'm sorry?
Yeah, like other cities or other programs, because I know you all have been researching other programs. Is there language in other places that you've seen that could be helpful?
Absolutely. I mean, we're looking at, this program is supposed to have mirror cahoots and the Portland Street Response Team and things of that nature. So taking a look at that and applying it from a progressive standpoint, that's the way we can, really, we don't even need to look at these other instances. We know right from wrong. We know that this program, which is humanitarian in its right, should not be seen as a method to lead people down the path of, towards a carceral state or towards ICE or anything of that nature. There should be no loopholes. At the end of the day, people have a need from this system that's sent to protect them that should not involve any of these instances or this interaction with these forces in any way, shape, or form. So we can be trendsetters in that right.
Thank you.
I would like to return to Paola Valencia. I believe we had a connection issue earlier. So is Paola
Un problema
on
con
the
la
line?
conexión. Adelante, Paola.
Sí, ¿me escucha?
Sí, sí, le escuchamos, Paola.
Hola, buenos días. Mi nombre es
morning.
Paola Valencia.
My name is
Soy
Paola
miembro
Valencia.
de Si Se Puede Neighborhood Association.
I am a member of Si Se Puede Association, Neighborhood
Pertenezco al
Association.
Distrito 7 en
And I'm
Estrella
in
Village,
District 7 in Estrella Village,
código postal
zip code
85043.
85043.
A nosotros nos gustaría solicitar un
And we
centro
would like to
comunitario
request a community center
y un circulador para nuestra área,
and a bus transit system in our area.
ya que muchos estudiantes
Because a
tienen
lot
que
of
caminar
students
largas distancias
have to
para
walk long
tomar el
distances
autobús
just to take the bus
y asistir a las escuelas.
and to be able to go to school.
Necesitamos un circulador confiable
We need
y
a
seguro
bus transit system that is consistent
Yeah.
and safe.
Excuse me?
para que puedan
Just-
llegar a los colegios comunitarios.
Perdón, Paola, nos están interrumpiendo. Un momentito, por favor.
Just
Go ahead.
for the
ahead,
translator, I know you've been doing simultaneous translation the entire meeting, but just if it'd be easier for us to hear the person first, and if they stop, and then you can translate, please.
What do you want me to do? Okay, give me a moment, Councilman Garcia. Un momento, Paola. Gracias por su paciencia. Muy bien, Paola, adelante, siga adelante.
Nosotros estamos necesitando aquí en nuestra área un circulador para poder que los jóvenes puedan llegar a los colegios, universidades, que sean seguros para ellos, ya que nosotros no contamos con eso en Estrella Village. Por eso estamos exigiendo tener eso. Eso es todo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Well, we need a better bus transit system so that our students can get to college or the universities in a safe manner as well. We don't count with that with that kind of service here in our area, in Estrella Village, and we demand that we get it. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ana Maria Hernandez. Ana Maria, are you on the line?
Nuestra siguiente oradora es Ana María Hernández. ¿Se encuentra en la línea?
Sí, aquí estoy.
Adelante. Go ahead.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Ana María Hernández. Pertenezco a the Neighborhood Association. Estrella Village. Código postal 86043. Nosotros estamos solicitando un centro comunitario para traer diferentes programas, información sobre servicios sociales, talleres educativos.
Ana, for a moment, I'm having a hard time hearing her.
Okay.
Ana María, se escucha un poco de Ana María, se escucha un poco de eco. ¿Podría, no sé si lo tiene en altavoz, pero si podría quitar esa opción para yo poderle escuchar mejor? Creo que capté que usted dijo que es de Neighborhood Association y el código postal que pertenece es el 8043.
Sí.
Ok, adelante, siga.
Nosotros necesitamos un centro comunitario para traer diferentes programas, información, servicios sociales, talleres educativos y deportivos de beneficio para la comunidad y así evitar que los jóvenes caigan también en la drogadicción y en el alcoholismo y en la delincuencia. También nos gustaría implementar actividades que involucren a personas de todas las edades para crear un sentido de pertenencia y fomentar así la unión familiar y comunitaria. Teniendo un centro comunitario, pues nos ayudaría a fomentar la actividad física a través de clases de zumba, pilates, yoga, meditación, y así podemos promover la asistencia de estas clases de parte de los miembros de la comunidad. Nos gustaría también tener un servicio de cuidado de niños para adultos. También nos gustaría tener clases de GED, inglés, educación para los adultos, hacer manualidades, posturas, clases de nutrición, computación, tecnología y talleres de prevención y manejo de enfermedades crónicas. Todo esto nos gustaría que nos ayudaran para tener nosotros una mejor comunidad y más educada, y así incluir también a todos los padres de familia, a todos nuestros jóvenes y personas de la tercera edad. Así evitamos que ellos caigan en drogadicción. Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias. My name is Ana Maria, and I'm with Neighborhood Association. I'm in zip code 8008043, and I am just wanted to share that we feel that we need a community center. We need more help with the bus transit system, and also a center where there's more availability to get education for members of our community, to be able to practice sports, and just to give more distraction for our youth so that they don't fall in these drug addictions, to have more activities available for them so we can foster a sense of community and family. The community center can also provide classes like Zumba, Pilates, yoga, meditation, and having these available for everyone would also be very helpful in our community. Child care is also important, and GED classes, English classes, and other trainings and education such as nutrition and prevention to help avoid chronic illnesses. And in general, we need this community center to, again, for our families, for people that are elderly and our youth. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brenda Montoya. Brenda, we have two Brendas on the line, actually. So if Brenda Montoya.
Sí, estoy aquí.
Okay, adelante, Brenda.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Brenda Montoya, pertenezco a Si Se Puede Neighborhood Association. Vivo en Estrella Village, Distrito 7, código postal 85043. En nuestra comunidad existen apartamentos residenciales para personas de la tercera edad. Casa Pedro Ruiz. Aquí habitan aproximadamente 65 personas y la parada del autobús más cercano queda a media milla. Ellos usan el transporte público para hacer sus compras y caminar de regreso a su residencia, con las bolsas de víveres en sus manos. Esto es sumamente agotador, especialmente durante el calor, cuando las temperaturas pueden llegar hasta los 120 grados. Por lo tanto, solicitamos que se instale una parada del circulador justo enfrente de Casa Pedro. También estamos aquí como comunidad abogando porque necesitamos un centro comunitario, ya que estamos trabajando para beneficio de la comunidad y por el momento Fundación César Chávez nos presta sus instalaciones en Casa Pedro Ruiz. Muchísimas gracias y esperamos nos tomen en su presencia, ya que esta comunidad es una comunidad latina que necesita de estos servicios. Muchísimas gracias a todos los miembros del concilio. Les agradecemos por todo. Gracias.
Okay, my name is Brenda Bustamante, and I belong to the Si Se Puede Neighborhood Association. I'm in District 7, zip code 85043, and I am here to share that we, in our area, there is an elderly facility called Casa Pedro Ruiz, where there's 65 people that don't have access to a bus stop. They don't have access to get around, and they have to walk up to half a mile to the closest bus stop, and they use it to get their groceries, and it becomes very exhausting for them because they have to carry their groceries around, and in taking into account how hot it gets, up to sometimes 120 degrees, it is very difficult. So I request that you install a bus stop area or make it accessible in front of Casa Pedro Ruiz facility. We are advocating for our community, and we need a community center which our community needs. And we've been working with Cesar Chavez Foundation that has made their parking lot spaces available to us to be able to serve our Latino community. And I would like you to take that into consideration because our Latino community needs it. And I thank the council members for listening to me today, and thanks again.
Our next speaker is Brenda Bustamante. Brenda, are you on the line?
Sí, buenos días.
Good morning.
Mi nombre es Brenda Bustamante. Pertenezco a la asociación Si Se Puede Neighborhood Association. Distrito 7, Estrella Village, código postal 85043. Muchos de los habitantes en Estrella Village no contamos con el transporte privado y nos vemos en la necesidad de hacer el uso de transporte público. Esto es muy incómodo porque tenemos que esperar largos periodos de tiempo entre cada autobús. Esto es un serio problema durante el verano extremo en Phoenix y además que representa un riesgo para las personas que tienen hijos pequeños y para los adultos mayores. Muchas de las paradas no tienen sombra ni banca para los usuarios. Aumentar el uso del transporte público beneficiaría a contrarrestar, los efectos negativos de los cambios climáticos. Gracias por la oportunidad que nos brindan. Gracias.
My name is Brenda Bustamante, and I am with the association Así Se Puede Neighborhood Association with Estrella Village in zip code 85043, District 7. And we need help with getting reliable public transport system. We don't have access to a private one, and we are forced to use the public one, which takes a long periods of time between its arrival. And with the extreme heat that we experience in Phoenix, it makes it much more difficult. Also, it puts more people at risk, for example, the people that have young children and the elderly. And granted, there is no shade in the bus stops as well. So if you would accommodate to make these changes, it would really help us also manage the increasing temperatures of these climate changes that we are experiencing. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Our next speaker is Elizabeth Payan. Elizabeth, are you on the line?
Buenos días, soy Nancy Ibarra.
And it's Nancy Ibarra.
Oh, thank you. Please proceed, Nancy.
Gracias. Adelante. Siga. Nancy.
Buenos días. Yo pertenezco a la asociación de Si Se Puede y vivo en el Distrito 7 con el código postal 85043. Pues nos gustaría solicitar un circulator en nuestra comunidad para transportarnos a lugares donde venden comida saludable, ya que en nuestra comunidad hay muchos restaurantes de comida rápida, pero nada saludable. Nos gustaría que la ciudad nos apoye para construir más tiendas con comida saludable, porque cuando queremos estas comidas tenemos que viajar hacia Maribel. También nos gustaría solicitar un centro comunitario en nuestra comunidad. Esto nos permitiría coordinar tutorías, programas para niños y niñas después de la escuela y también clases para las personas adultas como el GED, clases de inglés y manualidades. Esto también ayuda a prevenir la delincuencia y que los jóvenes estén involucrados en su comunidad y en la educación. Una última cosa que me gustaría pedir es la ayuda para la limpieza de un lote baldío que hay en la 71 Avenida y la Pierce. Ahí los árboles están muy grandes. Hemos tratado de cortarlos los vecinos y la ciudad nos ha ayudado con contenedores, pero esto se está saliendo de las manos porque mucha gente viene a tirar basura y viene gente a vivir aquí, a hacer drogas y están tirando sus jeringas. Los niños que viven aquí en el área les gusta ir a jugar allá y yo me tengo que estar encargando de sacarlos de ahí porque está muy peligroso. Espero que nos tomen en cuenta a nuestra comunidad y ojalá podamos trabajar juntos. Muchas gracias.
Okay. My I am my name is Nancy, and I am with the Association Si Se Puede, District 7, zip code 85043. And I would like to request a circulator to take us to places to be able to get groceries and healthier foods. All the areas around us are just fast foods, and those are not healthy for us. We would like also for more places to be built that sell of healthier foods so we can have access to them, because right now we have to drive a long ways or to get to the Maryvale area, which is closest to us, to be able to acquire that. We also need a community center where there's child care for children when they get off of school. We need classes there that could be offered, like such as GED, English classes. Also, for our youth, we need sports and other activities available for them so they can get distracted and not get involved in crimes or anything like that. And so we also need the alley area around 75th and Pierce to be cleaned up. We have in the community started to clean it up ourselves. The city did provide some pods, but that's not alleviating the issue. People still continue to dump things there, and people go in there and do drugs, and our children are, like to go and play around there. So I have to be vigilant in trying to get the kids out of there, and it makes it very dangerous. So I hope that you take into account our requests and that we can work together. Thank you.
May I say something? Para la comunidad de Sí Se Puede, les quiero dar las gracias de nuevo que se hayan presentado el día de hoy y recordarles que su nueva concejal va a empezar el lunes. Nosotros les vamos a poder dar esta información a la nueva concejal, pero recordarles que el día 20, el próximo martes, hay otra audiencia donde ella ya se va a presentar como la concejal. So for the community at Sí Se Puede, just thanking you all once again for joining us in the budget hearing and letting you all know that next Tuesday on the 20th, the new council person representing your area will be present for the budget hearing, but we'll definitely relay this information to her as well. Thank you all.
Our next speaker is Kayla Bird. Kayla, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. I'm here to also echo the demand for no cap. As you guys stated, I know you're in the process, but quite frankly, it is just not good enough, and it is a matter of life and death. I'm here to request that the city council members pass an ordinance to control the crisis assistance program that has nothing to do with the police or fire department. Neither are equipped to respond to mental health, homelessness, and drug addiction, and many more calls. If this is passed, thousands of calls in Phoenix will receive support that they need in times of crisis, instead of facing arrest and abuse from law enforcement that are supposed to protect and serve their community. I demand that this organization be independent from the police department. This should be a completely separate entity from law enforcement across the country. We've seen that police abuse and murder of people that they're supposed to protect. The country has rightfully lost or never had trust in the police as this continues to unfold before our eyes. The fire department is quite obviously too closely related to the police to be effective. The goal is to support people in times of crisis without the use of a criminal legal system. I also demand that there is community oversight, because transparency cannot be guaranteed otherwise. We want real community change through an ad hoc committee made up of community members. And I also demand secure, sufficient long-term funding in the amount of $20 million directly from the police department, because like you said, they won't be needing that money anymore, and we don't need more cops, we need more help. This isn't a new idea. Previous attempts have failed because city officials weren't fully committed to funding the program. Thank you for your time. That's all.
Our next speaker is Patrick Phillips. Patrick, are you on the line?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Hello, so I am calling to also support the No Cap Neighborhood Organized Crisis Assistance Program. We are asking for $20 million and not directly from the surplus but also from the police department, since as stated before multiple times that this service will be eliminating and taking some of the responsibilities from that said police departments and be helping fund our community and or helping support our community to help break the cycles of inequality that we have in our community and help bring support to those that need it the most. We also demand that this has continuous community oversight and involvement through an ad hoc committee to make sure that this is stays on target with community needs and demands. And at this time, we don't need a precedent to do the right thing. This is funds that are coming from the community, and these need to be going to the community itself to help better all of us and do the right thing. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dominic Bonelli. Dominic, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Okay, well, I'm also calling in today with support for the Neighborhood Organized Crisis Organization Program, or NOCAP coalition. Again, I really want to reinforce that NOCAP doesn't want any police involvement. I'd like to respond to something Ed Zerker said earlier regarding when the police would get involved in a crisis assistance program. The very possibility of getting police involved is terrifying to many people. We do not want people to fear arrest and thereby have ICE involved. If people fear arrest, they will not utilize and they will not trust a crisis assistance program. PPD handles mental health checks atrociously. And this morning we also talked about, what does this look like sorting out this crisis assistance program? But NOCAP already has a well-defined program and course of action. And I believe we should listen to these community leaders. I'd like to finish out with an anecdote. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, back in the 60s and 70s, an all-Black ambulance service inspired today's emergency medical service system. At this time, the idea that a sick person would be brought to the ER by somebody trained in mental health or medical care was still a novel concept. Critically ill patients often got to the hospital in a station wagon or hearse driven by a police officer with minimal first aid training. There was no attendant by the patient's side and no life support equipment. Dr. Peter Safar established a group that would provide 24-hour emergency medical care and hospital transport in 2 districts without police involvement. Today, I believe NOCAP's effort towards mental health reform without police involvement parallels Dr. Safar's vision back in the 60s and 70s. And so here we are today. We can make history. We can reimagine mental health care through the efforts of the affected communities. Thank you. I yield my time.
Our next speaker is Jonathan Hirsch. Jonathan, are you on the line? It does not appear as though Jonathan is on the line, so our next speaker then is Alejandra Cervantes. Alejandra, are you on the line? Alejandra, you may be muted.
Can you hear us?
Yes, there's a little bit of an echo. So you might want to turn down your volume just a bit. We can hear
Hello?
you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So my name is Alejandra Cervantes, and I live in District 4. And I'm here today because I reject this budget. I want money to go towards mental health resources, better public transportation, and resources for those seeking shelter from domestic violence. Funds also need to go to help those struggling with substance abuse. And COVID relief money needs to be for the people and not the police. I demand that $15 million from police to pay for the new crisis response program. And if the program is implemented, the money must come from the police department and not the surplus. And I also demand that $10 million from the Phoenix Police needs to be moved from the crime suppression squad. Phoenix Police arrest thousands of people every year for marijuana possession, most of these Black and brown people. And now that marijuana is legal, arrests by Phoenix Police must decrease by several thousand arrests per year, meaning that they should cut the number of officers employed by the department and reallocate that money to, like I said, better public transportation, resources for addiction abuse, and housing support. And I'm against that the 75 new civilian positions for Phoenix Police. Phoenix Police Department says it's necessary to increase transparency, but every attempt by police to increase transparency and training have failed. We need access to public records from police, but continuing to add more people to a rotten system isn't going to fix anything. And police records need to be handled by the city clerk's office. I honestly don't know how y'all sleep at night knowing that you're voting for this contract, that you're passing this. I don't know how you, Laura Pastor, could vote for this knowing as a brown person yourself what brown folks and Black people are suffering every single day. You know that there's neo-Nazis in the Phoenix police force targeting us every single day, and just the whole system is just messed up. I could say so much more, and I'm just going to keep going till I run out of time, but honestly...
Please conclude your comment. Our next speaker is Betty Garcia. Betty, are you on the line?
Sí, mi nombre es Betty y soy del Distrito 5 y yo lo único que pido es que no más inversiones a la policía. Ellos no nos mantienen seguros. Es urgente invertir en capacitando a personas para poder lidiar con personas que sufren de esquizofrenia, que tienen depresión, que tienen autismo. Ellos no saben lidiar, ellos llegan y los matan sin ni siquiera preguntar qué es lo que pasa. También es urgente tener un centro de rehabilitación para jóvenes de drogas, de depresión. También es hora de que todos nuestros impuestos den fruto para un futuro mejor, sin tanta violencia y matazón que está pasando. A todos los que están ahí sentados les doy una sugerencia de que me gustaría que fueran a ver los distritos cómo están. Ustedes no se enfocan en la ciudad, las calles no están bien, todos están llenos de baches, ya no hay señales, ya no se ven, y es todo lo que les pido. Gracias.
Our next speaker is Maria Gutierrez.
Okay. I'm sorry, Matt. I'm just going to finish interpreting
my
for what
apologies.
you
Thank you.
stated. That's okay. She was saying that they need more centers of to be able, or more mental health centers available in the area to be able to help those with substance abuse and autism. We don't need the police to come out. We've already seen what they've done. They've even killed people without asking the why. And we feel that our tax monies would be better off in going towards other uses that will benefit the community, such as community centers. And I suggest that all of you that are sitting there would come to our districts and see what they look like. Our streets need maintenance. They have potholes, and so I invite you to come and see what our areas look like. Thank you for your attention.
Our next speaker is Maria Gutierrez.
Sí, presente, aquí estoy.
Yes, I'm here.
Please proceed.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Adelante.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Gutiérrez, pertenezco al Distrito 7 y soy voluntaria para una organización, Poder en Acción. Estamos ahorita exigiendo que 15 millones de dólares de la policía sean removidos para respuestas de crisis. Necesitamos más ayuda con COVID, que todavía lo tenemos vigente, presente, y no estamos exigiendo a los 75 nuevos puestos civiles para la policía de Phoenix. Es injusto ver cómo nuestra comunidad tiene miedo de hablar a la policía cuando tienen una persona en crisis, porque no saben, saben que no van a solucionar el problema. A la fecha ha sido peor llamarlos. Entonces, no creo que sea justo tanto presupuesto para ellos. Necesitamos parar eso y darle verdaderamente importancia a los hospitales de salud mental, a los muchachos en drogas, en las calles, a la gente sin hogar, y de muchas cosas que tenemos que poner atención. Muchas gracias por su atención y espero que nuestras voces escuchen y no nos ignoren, porque por nosotros y por muchas de nuestra comunidad, ustedes están en el puesto que están. Gracias.
Okay, my name is Maria Gutierrez, and I am also with Poder en Acción, District 7, and the 15 million that are designated to go to the police department, I think that should be redirected to services in our community, to especially the crisis response group. COVID is still here. We're still dealing with that, and we feel that the 75 positions available to the police are not necessary. We demand for those monies to go towards community centers and mental health institutes or groups to be able to treat people that are needing help with substance abuse and mental health, and people that have no home. There's a lot of issues that we have in our community that need to be addressed, and the aggression from the police needs to stop because people are afraid of calling the police, because many times it has resulted in worsening the situation. I hope that you hear our voices and that that you remember that you're there because we put you there. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jonas Kashai. Jonas, are you on the line?
I'm here addressing the police budget, and what I want to say is we need to be able to move $10 million from the crime suppression squad because it's no longer needed with the fact that marijuana is legal. And that's about 7,000 arrests, meaning there's less of a need for police interaction. So we can reinvest that money into preventative measures instead of reactionary measures like the police, which have proven over the last 5 years not to be an ally to the communities, right? In the last 5 years, the Phoenix PD killed 115 people. In the last 5 years, the crime rates have stagnantly changed. So every year, I'm sick and tired of seeing that we invest more and more money for training, right? More and more money for protections for police, for them to get better at doing their job, but it's not happening. People are out being killed in the streets, beat, and you guys sit in this city council meeting doing nothing about it. You guys were elected to represent the people. Phoenix is such a diverse city with a population of over 5 million. Why isn't that reflected in the budget? Our budget's not diverse. It's stacked all in one place, almost 3/4 of it. When are you guys going to do your jobs and step up and reflect what the community needs in their budget? I'm done.
Our next speaker is Tammy Nguyen. Tammy, are you on the line?
Yeah, my name is Tammy Nguyen. I'm a resident of District 6. I also worked on the new council-elect for District 7, Yasmin Ansari's campaign for over a year. During her campaign, other council members, Laura Pastor, Carlos Garcia, Betty Guardado, all pushed the agenda that Yasmin would finally put city council to a progressive majority. She won, so now what? If you choose to claim the narrative that progressive city council will make a better Phoenix, then reject the budget and stop giving money to the police. And that means not giving them access to COVID relief funds. COVID relief doesn't just mean vaccines and masks and testing sites. It also means healthcare, housing assistance, childcare support, valuing the rights of essential workers, income support, tuition and debt relief, and ensuring our unsheltered community has access. $400 million in COVID relief is not enough, and especially not for the police to take a single dollar. I'm also finishing my master's in sustainability at ASU, and thus we need to invest in sustainability, free public transportation, more parks and trees, shade coverage at bus stops and heat refuge centers, community gardens, and get rid of the food desert. Climate action and climate justice is intertwined with racial justice, gender justice, disability justice. These spaces can only exist if cops are defunded. I would want all this money for what I just listed that directly benefits the community to come from the police budget. A progressive majority on the city council means that you all recognize that the police budget needs to be rejected because it's negotiated behind closed doors. You serve the community, so don't just hold these listening sessions, but do something about it. Thanks.
Our next speaker is Rebecca Dennis. Rebecca, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the line. Thank you. Today I'm speaking to oppose this trial budget. It is the exact opposite of a well-balanced budget. Phoenix PD is the most well-funded department in our city, plain and simple. We have 27 departments in the city of Phoenix, and the total budget that comes from the general fund, our tax dollars, is a little over $1.4 billion. The police budget is $726 million. That's a 0.5% increase from last year in 2020, and about half of the $1.4 billion. The next highest budget is the fire department at around $350 million. That leaves around $320 million of our tax dollars for 25 other departments to share. You all here at the city already know this. So my question is, how do you justify this imbalance? How much more money, raises, training, how many more dollars are you willing to invest in the police while our communities suffer? Why don't you have the vision to invest those dollars into the social needs that live under the 25 other departments that actually improve the quality of life for our residents? The current budget is not a representation of the voices of the diverse people who make up our community, but is a reflection of the city's loyalty to an outdated idea of public safety and a loyalty to outdated systems such as policing that need to be defunded to start and ultimately abolished. This budget highlights two main issues. It overfunds a department that has not been held accountable for their corruption or violence when there's years of proof that there are white supremacists on the force, in addition to the deadly shootings that continuously happen with no accountability. In addition, we have around 100 officers on the force who are on the Brady list, officers who can't be trusted in a court of law, and yet we trust them on our streets. The bigger issue, in my opinion, which often gets overlooked, is the ways in which we neglect our community's health and safety by failing to invest money into the main resources we need to truly be healthy and safe. We need better public transportation, which is the least invested department in our city. Let's make it free. We need to invest in a crisis assistance program that will not collaborate with ICE and does not rely on police involvement, whose reactive measures are the exact opposite of what people in crisis need. In addition, I would hope that the crisis response program is an integrated
Please
approach. As
conclude your
people with
comment.
mental illness
Thank you.
have a addiction as well. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ian Lopiccolo. Ian, are you on the line?
Hi, yes, my name is Ian Lopiccolo. I run a queer and transgender household in District 8. None of us feel safe when interacting with the police, and in fact, the police have served as the volatile and negative force in most of our lives, harassing us for our identities and our presentation in the streets every single day. And I'm here to speak to reject the current budget, specifically as it relates to the police. To be more specific, I find it ridiculous that the city is irresponsible enough to allocate COVID relief funds to the police. To me, as a resident of Phoenix, this tells me that the Phoenix City Council values the lives of their police officers over my own, and that you value the lives of murderers over your own citizens. The current budget should be rejected until all COVID relief funds are reserved for the community. I also find that the negotiation process for the police contract to be disgustingly abusive to the residents of this city, and I urge City Council to reject any budget that is decided in any part through police negotiations that are behind closed doors with absolutely no transparency or accountability. I want the council to think about how residents should feel about the city holding secret negotiations for a contract that's supposed to be keeping us safe. I also wanted to comment on something Luke Black said earlier in the meeting about funding for the crisis response program and the recent change in marijuana laws. I agree with Luke in that the change in marijuana laws means a decrease in the necessity for police response, and therefore the cost for the crisis response program should easily be able to fit in the pre-existing police budget. Please reject the budget proposal until the cost of the crisis response program is the responsibility of the police alone, and the surplus funds are reserved for the people. And finally, I want to speak against the 75 new civilian police positions for the Phoenix Police. The Phoenix Police Force is already one of the country's largest and most funded police forces per capita, and they're also one of the deadliest and most murderous police forces in the U.S. As such, there is more reason to decrease the number of positions instead of increase them. The City Council should not move forward with the budget until the stipulation for 75 new civilian positions is removed. And to recap everything I said, I urge the City Council members to reject the current budget until COVID relief funds are no longer available to the police, until police contract negotiations are 100% transparent and open to residents of the city, until the crisis response program is paid for by the police and not the surplus, and until the 75 civilian positions for the police are rejected.
Our next speaker is Madison C. Madison, are you on the line?
Hi there, this is Madison C., and I work in Phoenix. I've heard a lot of justifications for funding the police. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the process for this MOU was made behind closed doors, leading to a $60 million raise for the police. It is clear that until there is full transparency behind this process, the culture of violence behind this department will continue. This contract is reflective of the secret negotiations that have been taking place. There have been 115 victims of police violence since 2014. 115. That said, I want to ask City Council if they are proud of the Phoenix they have created. I want to ask if you are proud of holding even a single record for the most violent police force in the nation in 2018. I want to ask what kind of city you are creating when your reforms play into the hands of police rather than the people you are supposed to represent. Your contract literally gives police a $60 million pay raise to be accountable, to be transparent. I find it striking that the city has decided to give the police a pay raise to do their job. Cities do not flourish when their people live in poverty. In Phoenix, 19% of residents live in poverty. That's about 1 in 5 people. I want to ask what kind of city we are building. When 1 in 5 people are in poverty, yet the police are the highest funded department in the state. Imagine if those resources went to homeless programs or for mental health. The Phoenix we can create is beautiful if we choose to. Its citizens flourish and fewer crimes occur as our neighborhood's needs are met. We can start by not funding the crime suppression squad. In a state that just legalized marijuana, the thousands of yearly drug-related arrests will no longer occur. This does not mean that there is a need to hire more officers nor fund the most violent special unit in the department. Instead, that money can be used to fund the crisis response program. Instead, we are hiring 75 more positions when fewer arrests will occur. This is just a continuation of the culture of over-policing that affects our community. We are better than this.
Our next speaker is Damon White. Damon, are you on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Damon. I've been a resident of Arizona for about 15 years, and I work in Phoenix. The video that played before this meeting stated that the city intends to increase accountability, reform, transparency, and trust between the police and the community. I think in that context, that's what the city is claiming. It is an absolute joke that we are continuing to have closed-door negotiations, which always results in the city giving more of our tax dollars to the police every single year, regardless of the circumstances. If the problem is crime and you're trying to solve that problem, the suppression or the over-policing of people in the community is not going to solve it, because you were being, like it was stated earlier, reactive. If we want to stop crime, we need to stop the things that motivate crime, which means we need people to be supported and have their needs met. I think that this surplus of $153 million could be used in plenty of ways that will actually help us accomplish that goal. But for some reason, the result that we have right now, at least as regards to the police, is to give millions and millions and millions and millions more dollars to the police department, which continues to get millions more dollars every single year, regardless of how they perform, regardless of what happens to the actual crime rates, regardless of how heinously they operate outside of what they're supposed to do, to harm us continuously, time and time again, as a shining example of police violence for this country and the world to observe. If we're going to actually follow through with these things, and we need to do things like not have police budget negotiations be behind closed doors. There is no rational justification for it. There's no rational justification for giving more money to the police in the first place. We have plenty of places that this money needs to go. A comment was made earlier in response to one of the public comments stating that they're trying to find solutions to some of these problems. What I find especially heinous about that is that the city has been receiving answers to those questions from the community for years. I'm working on it. And we have yet to hear any of those demands responded to. We've yet to have any of those proposals supported. You know, they claim supporting homelessness. We have had a shelter bed case going.
Our next speaker is Maria Sanchez.
1 second.
Where's Maria?
Maria's not here, but we do have one more speaker that was listed. So two more speakers that were listed.
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Jessica Spencer.
Yes, we can.
Hello, my name is Jessica Spencer, United States Navy veteran who works in Phoenix. I am here because I reject this budget. Funds need to be moved from the police and used for services that serve the community for education, rehabilitation, and affordable housing. Yet instead, we keep funneling money into an organization that has shown time and time again that no matter what funding they get, they will continue to be violent and end up causing more harm to our communities than helping to ease them. I demand $15 million being redirected from the police into a new crisis response program. No cap without police involvement, to be clear. We need real solutions, not empty, padded positions that will do nothing to better our communities. In that way, we will reduce neighborhood issues in the ways that the police never could. I have seen what the police here use their funds for: challenge coins and beating houseless community members in the streets when they feel they are not being watched. How about instead of pummeling people that are sleeping, we spend some of that money getting them affordable housing and care instead? Solutions to housing, solutions to healthcare are effective in reducing crime rates and improving living conditions for all of us. I'm extremely concerned with the fact that our politicians here in Phoenix support a racist, violent, militarized police force, and all other residents should be just as concerned as I am. They don't give a shit about us. We are numbers to them. Reject this budget and do much better.
And did you say there was another listed speaker?
Just a second. Hello, my name is Quinn Mungia. Can you hear me?
Yes, could you please repeat your name? I did not hear it.
My name is Quinn Mungia.
Yes, thank you, sir. Please proceed.
My name is Quinn Mungia, and I work in Phoenix, and I'm here today because I am sickened that there is no age range to police abuse and violence, that they're getting a pay raise for inefficiency and being trigger happy, that it's even up for debate that COVID relief would go to the police instead of the community who they are paid to protect, that the new crisis response program funding would come from the surplus meant for the people and not in an ineffective department. And it should be redistributed in ways that would serve our community further than any self-driven, impulsive individual on the police force ever could.
Did you register for today's hearing?
I did.
Okay, please proceed. For anyone else listening, we do have a hearing on the 20th, so if anyone else needs to register, they can do so then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As I was saying, the police force does not need any more of the excessive amount of money they already get. In fact, more money from the department should be relocated to other departments that need it and would benefit our citizens immensely more. For example, transportation, housing, and rehabilitation programs that have proven to reduce crime rates, unlike Provoke It like the police department. There's also no need for 75 new positions for Phoenix PD since the legalization of marijuana will significantly reduce the amount of calls they respond to, which means no need for more positions. And we need to put our time and money into other programs because the police are clearly not meeting the needs of our citizens. And you should not reward repeated failures with a job this crucial. I move my time.
Our next speaker is Alicia Damore. Alicia, are you on the line? It does not appear as though Alicia is on the line. Our next speaker then is Hava Derby. Hava, are you on the line?
I am. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Hava Derby. I live in District 3, and I am calling as an advocate for the Neighborhood Organized Crisis Assistance Program. I'm feeling hopeful today. I feel like maybe CAP and no CAP are in two different cars traveling down the same highway. You guys need to jump in the car here. Carlos, I watched your interview on the appeal. It was wonderful, and I was very heartened to hear that you call the fire department just a holding moving forward, that eventually they will be removed from this program. That's kind of what I took from it, and that's what I'm hoping will happen, is that they will hold this position, and as we build, police and fire will not have anything to do with no cap, and that long term that the crisis response program will exist under a new independent city department, such as a department for public health, which will completely remove police and fire department from these calls. And Carlos, I also wanted to give you an example from up in Cahoots in 2019, that out of 24,000 calls, they only had to call the cops 150 times. And these are for instances of now there's a weapon involved when there wasn't. They can't restrain people. So maybe someone's trying to walk into the middle of the street and they can't restrain them. So we see that the cops are not needed in most of these calls. Also, we need to listen to the community. You can hear we're very much on board for this program. We're demanding real community control through an ad hoc committee made up of community members, or a clearly stated ordinance that requires that the CAP program adopt all the demands listed in the no cap letter to City Council. And the funding needs to be ongoing, and using surplus funds this year is not a secure long-term source for funding. This program needs to receive $20 million from the budget to be effective. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Ann Bommersbach. Ann, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ann Bommersbach. I live in District 4, and I'm a member of the Willow Neighborhood Association Board. I'm here to ask that you support funding for construction of the 3rd and 5th Avenue Extension Project north of McDowell. As you know, approximately $500,000 was approved for the design phase, and that's much appreciated. However, without funding for construction of the project, I'm left with the feeling that the $500,000 of taxpayer money spent on the design phase has been wasted, especially during these times with needs in so many areas. It's difficult to justify any kind of waste. So I urge you to approve funding for the construction phase to complete the project and to take advantage of the $500,000 already spent. One of the primary reasons I support this project is that I believe it will make Willow a safer place to live by reducing cut-through traffic and speeding in the neighborhood. We routinely see speeding, cut-through traffic, as well as wrong-way drivers on a daily basis. It's unsafe for children to play in their front yards or anywhere near the streets or ride their bikes anywhere in the neighborhood. Willow has had a significant change in the demographics over the last few years. We have many more young families with young children. When I first moved into the neighborhood a few years ago, I'm not sure that we had one child, maybe one, on the block. Today, there are at least 7 children, most under the age of 8. So safety has become an even more critical issue as Willow evolves into a neighborhood with more young families. This pedestrian bike path on 3rd and 5th will give these families a safe place to enjoy the outdoors with their children. One other area I'd like to mention is funding for affordable housing and homelessness. I appreciate the $2.7 million allocated in the trial budget.
If you could please finish your comment.
I will. And I hope that we can garner more federal funds, maybe stimulus funds, to put into that area also. So I thank you for your time.
I just want to mention that while the budget, to Ann's comment, while the budget has specific general funds for homelessness, the City Council just allocated over $20 million of stimulus money specifically for homeless prevention and for homeless service providers.
And affordable housing.
And affordable housing, yes.
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
One of the questions I have is 3rd Avenue and 5th Avenue, specifically 3rd Avenue. From Roosevelt all the way to Missouri, this bike path or these different pieces all are part of a bigger vision. Ever since I've been on council, every year they have to keep coming back. And so I want to figure out a plan on just funding this all the way to Missouri. And I don't know what we need to do, but that bike path that has to go is supposed to and set to go, and we've been doing different types of designs with Willow, Medlock, Carnation. So there's I guess what I'm saying is when we start to do that, there is an assumption that then the money is there. And so then they're disappointed when transportation comes out and says, well, we had money for that, we don't have money for the actual implementation. So I really want to look at a plan for that, for this, but in specifically for all our districts, because when we start something, we probably should be aware that we have to keep advocating for our projects and really look at a way that we can just, once we start a project, we can finish it. So that's just a piece of, this is what happens.
Understood. Yeah, thank you.
Our next speaker is Bob Booker. Bob, are you on the line? Robert Booker.
Hello. Yes, I am. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Members, thank you for hearing us today. I truly appreciate your work. What I truly appreciate is the $200,000 increase to the Office of Arts and Culture. As we know, arts and culture are part of any dynamic city in America. It helps with the education of our young people. It helps communities connect. It helps provide security and safety for our neighbors. And the arts really reach out to many, many communities that are in need of connection, support, and education. I just want to say thank you for that increase of $200,000, and I truly appreciate the work you do. Good afternoon.
Our next speaker is Kelly Kwok. Kelly, are you on the line?
Hello.
Please
Yes,
proceed.
I think we will keep repeating as many times as needed for the city council and mayor to truly listen and do something. We demand that you reject this budget until the public is guaranteed full access to future labor negotiation meetings. Negotiating the contract behind closed doors resulted in pay raises for police, $60 million in pay raises, and minimal changes in transparency and accountability. What you're saying is not enough. Continuing to let police negotiations happen behind closed doors means the police are going to stay violent and unaccountable. That is unacceptable. Council has the power to change this process and end secret negotiations. To repeat our demands, no to the new 75 civilian positions for Phoenix Police. The COVID relief needs to go to the people and not the police. Move $10 million from Phoenix Police Crime Suspension Squad. The $15 million from police must pay for the new crisis response program, not the surplus. And reject this budget until the process for MOU negotiations becomes fully public. We keep repeating, our communities demand the funding instead for free transportation and bus-only lanes, rehabilitation services and a center in West Phoenix, low barrier shelter and affordable housing, and of course, reparations and direct redistribution of resources. We need the Green New Deal, we need climate justice, and all of this can be solved with listening to the community. No more money for cops. Defund Phoenix Police.
Our next speaker is Tom Dosher. Tom, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Please proceed.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak at today's budget hearing. I'm here to echo Dr. Cannon and Ann Bommersbach's discussion on completing 3rd and 5th Avenue north of McDowell. We've been through the planning stage. We were told we have money for planning, but we don't have money to complete this. Living in Willow the traffic in Willow has been a problem since Willow's inception as a historic district back in 1986. We've had some minor ways of trying to mitigate traffic, but we still have cut through, wrong way drivers, excessive speed during rush hour. in a mix where people in our neighborhood like to walk, bike, and enjoy the neighborhood and walk to the amenities in the central city. However, it is dangerous and we need this completion. We need a dedicated bike lane on 3rd Avenue and 5th Avenue. We need sidewalks on 5th Avenue from Encanto North. Those don't exist at this time. Pedestrians are forced to walk in the bike lane, which is just painted stripping. So I ask that funding be included to complete the plan that the city and the community have come up with. And I thank you very much for that consideration. I yield my time.
Our next speaker is Pamela Tracy. Pamela, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you
Please
hear me?
proceed. Yes, please proceed.
Hi, my name is Pamela Tracy. I live in District 8 in Levine, and I'm calling in support of the park at 55th Avenue and Samantha Way. I have lived adjacent to this park for 14 years, and it's just been a lot full of weeds this whole time. And the city will come in when we call, and they'll clean it up, and there's a barbed wire fence around it right now that keeps breaking, and that hasn't been fixed in a long time. So it's really bringing, I think, our property values down, and it's frustrating when you see the area around your house booming with development the last 14 years, especially in the last year or two since the Loop 202 came in. And like I said, I've been there for 14 years, and I think it's time for the city to make this park usable for the residents of Levine and for kids and families in the area. And I just want to advocate for this park to be put in this year's budget for construction and for maintenance for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. I've checked with our IT staff, and that is the last speaker online. So that concludes our public comment for today's hearing.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for doing this. And thank you to everyone who's patient and stayed on the phone to give us comments. These hearings are on the Phoenix TV YouTube channel. They're there to be reviewed after the fact, and minutes are being taken of the meetings as well for all the council members to review. Before we close, I'd turn to council members Pastor or Garcia if they had any closing comments.
So I'd like to thank everybody that participated and gave their comments. Understand that there's a lot of moving pieces with our budget, and but really doing our best on meeting everybody's needs throughout the community. So thank you for spending Saturday with us.
Same, I want to thank everybody who called in. For those of y'all that called in from District 8, please go to our social media. We have our own District 8 specific survey as well around the budget. We want to continue to hear from you all and hope you all can join the remaining. If you didn't join today or haven't joined and you're watching, please check the schedule and join us for the next hearings. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, council members. As Councilmember Garcia noted, our last budget hearing will be held on Tuesday at 5:30, Tuesday, April 20th at 5:30. That will be the final budget hearing of our cycle. With that, thank you all very much. Have a great afternoon and weekend.